This is topic 8.2 for the BTEC Business Unit 2 Finance for Business. As with the previous video, the best way to learn from this video is as we're going through each little bit of it, stop the video, do some more research, read around the subject a little bit more, read the definitions from different sources, really build upon your knowledge. It's when you are really thinking about the material that you will learn the most. Make sure you're developing really good revision notes. We're going to want to see them in lessons. And if there's anything that you're really struggling with, after you've done everything that you can, check in the textbook that's been sent out to you, check in the online resources. If there's nothing else that you can do, then just bring the topic in and speak to your classroom teachers and we'll try to be able to help you. Topic 8.2 is about understanding how businesses make a profit. There's a couple of equations that you've got to know, and it's trying to think about how money comes into the business predominantly. So the first thing that we need to think about is what is the main source of revenue for any business? Pause the video and see if you can complete this sentence. So hopefully you were able to identify that the main source of revenue or money coming into any business is going to be selling its products or services. So if it's McDonald's, then it's going to be providing the food within their restaurant. If it's going to be a window cleaner, it's going to be washing your windows. So any sort of business, the main way that it makes money is by providing the products or services that it usually sells. But it's not the only way that an organisation can make money or get revenue into the business. So there are three other ways which you'll need to know for the examination which a business can generate revenue. These aren't the only ways, but can you think of 3 ways that a business can generate revenue? Pause the video now. Hopefully you've got a list that maybe looks something a little like this. So interest. So if we've got money in the bank, then the bank pays us money for keeping that money there. Investments. So if people buy a share of the business, or if we receive a bank loan, that will put money into the business. Leasing. So organisations, maybe you've got a shop and you've got a flat over the top and you rent that out. That would bring money into your business. Or maybe quite popular in the building trade is if you're an organisation and you own, say, a JCB, but it's not being used for a week, you might rent it out to other building firms. So they're 3 of the other ways that an organisation can generate revenue. Revenue's got 5 names that you need to know for the exam, and they can be used interchangeably. So if you want to pause the video and see how many of the 5 other names you can think of now. So sales revenue, income, sales income, total revenue. When we come on to break even, total revenue is the term that's quite often used. So these, you need to know them because in the exam it will use any of these 5 plus straight old revenue, and you need to be ready for that. So don't let that trip you up in the exam. Make sure you know these 5. If you're doing your revision notes, then you want to get this down on your revision notes now. The equation for revenue, it flashed up very early on in the video. Maybe you saw it or maybe you just know it anyway. But what is the equation for revenue? Pause the video, see if you can have a go at that now. So the equation for revenue or money coming into the business is how much did you sell it for, the price, and how many did you sell, the quantity. So if a shop is selling things for £1 and it sells 1, then it makes £1. If it sells 2, it makes £2. So how much was the item sold for and how many of those items did you sell? Now a couple of years ago, my previous students told me about this triangle, which is popular in maths, I believe, and it's used for speed and distance and time. So revenue divided by price will give you the quantity, or revenue divided by the quantity will give you the price, or price times quantity will give you the revenue. This should be a concept that is familiar to all of you, but if this isn't something that you're familiar with, then it might be worth having a chat with your teacher just so that you understand this principle, because although you might know the equation revenue equals price times quantity, you need to be able to do it with only knowing the revenue and the quantity. So you need to be able to manipulate this equation. That's quite important. So if you don't know how to do that, then please have a chat with your teacher. So if we have a look at this table here, it's the money coming in from sales, the money coming into the business predominantly. And so if we look at total revenue, the price times the quantity sold, again, TR equals P times Q, so that's the equation again. And if we look at this table on the right, just have a look at it just so you understand where these figures came from. So 10 jobs, £100 per job, the revenue is £1,000. 10 times 100 equals 1,000. If we put this little triangle back up again now, if we come to the next one, if we did £2,000 worth of revenue and we knew that we did 20 jobs, then if we did revenue divided by the quantity, so 2,000 divided by 20, then we'd equal £100, which is the price. And that's what I'm talking about, being able to manipulate the question in the exam. They might give you the revenue and the number of jobs, or they might give you the revenue and the price, and they might expect you to be able to work out the missing figure. So you need to be able to do that. So have a little bit of a think about how those figures came about. If you want to pause the video and have a go at this exam practice question. So if a business sells 200 clocks for £3 each, their fixed costs are £1,000 and their variable costs are £1 per clock, what is the total sales for this business? So again, it's using total sales rather than revenue, but it's the same question. So it's really easy to get wrong if you weren't confident about what revenue was, but revenue equals price times quantity. The clocks sold for £3 each, and we sold 200 of the clocks, so that meant that we got a revenue of £600. Now, this next line, the fixed costs are £1,000 and the variable costs are £1 per clock. You need to be confident in your knowledge of the equation to know that this second sentence has got nothing to do with anything. Okay, so we need to be really, really comfortable with what we're doing in the exam, so that if we get a question which isn't just what is price times quantity, but makes it a little bit more complex, if you really, really know that equation, then you will know that the other things in this question just weren't designed to help you answer the question. So I've got two more I've got another question which has got two answers. Key term being here, most likely. Okay, so we're looking for two answers from the list below. So have a read of the question and then see if you can come up with the correct two. If you want to pause the video now. Okay, so hopefully you've done quite well with these two. The correct answers are charging for your service or investing buying a share of the business. So they are the most likely ways. What you need to be really careful of, if anyone's selected D, is although we said that interest is revenue, in this case it said it was paying the interest on the loan. So interest, if you're paying it on a loan, you are giving it to the bank. If you've got savings, then it's money coming back to you. So you need to be really careful that there's a difference between interest that you have to pay to the bank on a loan and interest that you get from the bank if you've got savings. So the answers here was A and C. So well done if you got those right. Now we're moving on. Now we've thought about revenue. Now we're trying to think about expenditure. So expenditure is just any money that the business spends. Now overheads, which is a type of expenditure, is the running costs of the business. So if you have a look at this next table, some of them are revenue, some of them are expenditure, some of them are overheads. So if you want to pause the video now, and of these 9, try and tell me which are revenue, which are expenditure and which are overheads. So pause the video now. Right, so sales, obviously money coming into the business, revenue. Ingredients, they are expenditure, but they're also overheads because they are the running costs of the business. Wages, again, an expenditure, but they're overheads, they're the running cost of the business. An oven, it's expenditure, it's something you need to spend, but it's not something that you keep on spending money on to keep the business going. Interest on savings, revenue, that's money coming in. Pots and pans, it's just expenditure, it's money you'll have spent at the beginning of the business. Leasing your van to another business, revenue, money coming in. Washing up liquid, something that your business will need to keep on spending money on, so that will be expenditure, but it's an overhead. And advertising a price cut, okay, so that will be something you'll probably do more than once. It's definitely an expenditure, but it's something you'll need to do to keep your business running. So the equation for profit and or loss, okay, so it's really, really important that it's not the equation for profit, it's the equation for profit or loss. And that equation is revenue, money coming in, minus expenditure. And we've got this big red box up here which is saying if you end up with a minus number, that's absolutely fine. It just means that the business made a loss. In the exam, minus numbers are probably going to be expressed with brackets. So, and you can do the same. So if you're trying to write a minus number, you can put brackets around it to indicate that it's a minus, or you can put the little minus in front. Really practice with your calculators and make sure you're comfortable with those minus numbers. But if your revenue is less than your expenditure, then you will make a loss. If your revenue or money coming in is more than your expenditure or money going out, then you will make a profit. So we've got 2 more exam questions here. So if you want to pause the video and have a go at these 2 exam questions. Right, okay, so if we look at these questions, a business sells 20 items at £5 each and has expenditure amounting to £40. What is their profit or loss? So this is why it's important that you understand your profit or loss equation, because you need, your revenue equation, because you need to calculate the revenue before you can calculate the profit. And this is a typical style exam question. It's combining your knowledge of 2 separate equations into one question. So here's the answer. So if we look at the first part of the answer, we had to work out revenue, which was 20 items sold times £5 for each item, and that gives us £100. We minus our expenditure of £40, and that gave us a £60 profit. On the second one, again, we were trying to calculate our revenue, which was the items sold times the amount of each item, and that gave us £375. And we had expenses or expenditure of £500. So it was a minus £125. You would get no marks in the exam if you just put 125 because it's wrong. You have to indicate that it's a minus number. So let's just have a recap of where we've been to and the topics that we've covered. So for topic 8.2, understanding and identifying how businesses make money. So where does the money come from? Identifying sources of revenue. So you should know 4 of the main sources of revenue. You should be able to calculate revenue by now. Describe how businesses have to spend money, expenditure in order to succeed. So this is the overheads, the running costs of the business. So identify types of expenditure, including overheads. That was the little table that we've done. Understand that expenditure is anything that a business pays out, and overheads are everyday running costs. If you were successful with that table, you'll be able to do that. If not, go back and have a look at the table again. Pardon me. Understanding that businesses must know how much money is coming in, revenue, and going out, expenditure, before they can work it out. And that's just this equation here. So being able to, profit is going to be more revenue than expenditure, and a loss is more expenditure than revenue. Hopefully that was reasonably straightforward. So really have a think about developing those revision notes. Maybe watch the video again and just pick up some more ideas. If there's anything that you're struggling with, then do come and speak to one of your teachers before the examination. Best of luck.